Okay. Call to order February 26th meeting of the Dryden County Planning Board. For the forum check, and for Joy in the room, we have Bill, Chris, Tom, Cheryl, and me. Pat was supposed to be on Zoom, but I don't see her. Frank is not here. So we do have a quorum. That's good. We also have a new planning board member, Tom Jordan. Welcome, Tom. Good to see you. Thank you for doing this. Public comment period for things, for items not on the agenda. Anybody want to talk about anything that's not on the agenda? Yes. It's not on the agenda, right? That project is not on the agenda because we do not have an application for it. So good. So I know that I'm David Weinstein, 51 Freeze Road. And I know that the Edhill Road is not on your agenda because you haven't received an application. But I just wanted to make a few comments to highlight the importance of the unique natural areas that are on that particular parcel. Things that maybe you think about if an application does in fact come in. The first is the Fir Tree Swamp, which is UNA, Unique Natural Areas 73. It occupies almost half of the 237 acres of this parcel. About half of that is New York State designated wetland, and the rest is Thompson County designated wetland or wetlands that have been designated by the Fish and Wildlife Service. The Fir Swamp is really it's the only true Fir Tree Swamp in Tompkins County, and with other species, you would have to go way north or into the Catskills at high elevations to find some of these species. There are extremely large hemlocks there as part of an old growth forest. There are populations of American grove flower, which is pretty much our rarest wildflower. It's been listed both locally, statewide, and globally as a very rare species. And mostly it's important for you to recognize that anything that compromises the ability of the wetland to move flowing water or seeping waters is essential for maintaining this wetland. These are recharge areas that are very important. And so we don't want any irreparable damage. Little changes can cause irreparable damage. The Trillium Woods in the upper east part of the parcel is a very highly significant ecological community. Supports a huge diversity of species. It contains a spectacular and unusually abundant collection of spring wildflowers. Each spring, this woods maintains an amazing display of color and density. I won't go into the fact that in the non-UNA portions where there's farm, that's fine farmland. Other people can speak to that, but it's prime soils of statewide significance, and it's vital to the maintenance of our farming community to allow that to remain able to be farmed. So please don't, and I hope you will agree, not to place a subdivision on this parcel that would potentially destroy these treasures of our thriving environment. Thank you. Others want to talk about anything? I will say, like I said, 172 Edhill Road is not on the agenda. So we don't have an application. So a lot of this is premature. But
people want to talk. We'll be back. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure.
I'm Lorraine McCray. I live at 13 Ringwood Court West. And I am so happy to live in a town where we say in our comprehensive plan that we want to protect farmland and protect natural areas. And I'm also happy to know that there are people on this board who really listen, who take the time to think hard about things. I would echo some of what David said. This is a beautiful, beautiful area. It would really be a crime to have Trillium Woods cut up. We would make ourselves so much poorer because we are now rich in the natural world. The access that we have to it is really wonderful. So I hope that the resolution that has been put forward by the Ag Committee will get good consideration. I hope that people will think about the unique natural areas. That doesn't carry any legal weight, I realize, but it carries the weight of the heart. It really does. Thank you for being here.
Anyone else have anything that's not on the agenda? Okay. Joy Frank is in the room. Okay. 5 and 9, please row. Oh. Are you doing 5 and 9, please row? No. Go ahead.
No.
Not on the agenda. Yeah.
It will be brief.
That's
So my name is Justin Hervel. I live at 266 Ed Hill Road. We have been Dryden residents for the last 19 years. And I'm very proud to be a Dryden resident. I'm not a great orator, so I've prepared a small written statement. I don't think most people would dispute that ag land is becoming increasingly scarce in the town of Dryden, despite town's efforts to preserve it, including the Right Farm Law of 1992 and 2018's Agricultural Farmland Protection Plan. As competition for viable farmland increases, large tracts of land will face deforestation to meet the needs of both livestock and cropland farmers. When those forests are gone, they're realistically not ever coming back. The loss of our town's forests will have a profound effect on the character, culture, economy, wintertime safety of our roadways, and biodiversity. We will see the erosion and degradation of our soils. Homeowners will experience increased flood risks. And there will be an increase in both noise and light pollution. Our community cannot afford to lose more agricultural land to suburban encroachment. Our family strongly opposes large-scale development of existing farm acreage, including the UNAs on Ed Hill Road. Thank you.
My name is So, Robin Schropper, and I also live on 266 Edmore Road, which is just north of High School Road, just north of the proposed site. And we happen to have, we're proud stewards of a little piece of a different UNA 48, recruitment swamp and fens, and we're really proud of that, enjoy our property. And as Justin stated, we're strongly opposed to the development as proposed. It would be a very inappropriate use of this treasure piece of land. It would not address any affordable housing goals at all. Given the distance from transportation, et cetera, and the goals of the development itself. We're concerned about the loss, as others have said, and we'll say the loss of agriculturally important soils and farmland. And we're very much concerned about the potential devastation of both of the UNAs in this proposed site. We fully support the EMC's letter and that they've written previously urging to preserve both of the UNAs in their entirety because of their ecological importance, the rare and spectacular beauty that so many of us neighbors and others come from afar to enjoy every spring and throughout the year. And the fact that it is that the Trulian Woods in particular is an important hilltop buffer at the top of a very steep hill, buffer for weather, odor, sound, and light pollution. We want you to know that neighbors have come together. We have actually come together with many of our neighbors and friends to discuss this potential threat to our little community by Edmore Road and High School Road, unified by our common concerns for the future of this parcel. And we just would like to say to you, no, we say no to this development. And we say, save the Trillium, save the wetlands, and protect our farmlands. Thank you.
If you have something written, that we could have, that's.
I'm sorry.
If you have something written, if you want to leave it, you sure?
That'd be great.
Anyone else? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna point out. We don't have
Tony,
an
there's someone raising their hand online.
What's that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Tony. Hi. Really quick. I'll just take less than a minute. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Kaylee Firth. I work for a company called Soul Source Power. I chatted with Gina a little bit online, but I just wanted to request to the board, if any chance at the end of March, the March 26th meeting, if I could potentially give a presentation. In short, I'm a solar and battery energy storage developer. We're considering doing a standalone battery project in Dryden, less than an acre in size and kind of impact area. We have a couple little ideas of where we could potentially put one. So would just love to come and kind of speak to the planning board, get preliminary feedback, and kind of start those conversations. So just wanted to say hello, sit in for a little bit, and introduce myself.
That's good. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Look forward to seeing something. Yes, March 26th meeting. That would be great.
Awesome.
But I think you'd be in touch with Gina and make sure that it fits on.
Sounds great. Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. And Troy, I see that Pat's on. So we have everybody. Wow, we have everybody. Nice. Okay. Anything else that's not on the agenda? Usually there's nothing in that section. But okay. I will point out one more time that we do not have an application for this project. We don't know. I know that when they were here before, when they just did sort of an introduction, There was a lot of people that said things and who knows what they went back. If we do get an application, who knows what they went back and did. So maybe they're going to protect the units. I don't, we got to wait and see what comes of it. So at the moment, we don't have anything in front of us, but I appreciate the comments and feedback. 5 and 9 Priest Road. Hello again. Hi there.
Adam, did you want me to project anything or are you going to do that yourself?
Okay, myself. I will mention to the board that we're not going to, my understanding is we're not going to be approving anything tonight. This is more or less an introduction of what you want to do, and that you'll be back next month for us to do an actual full review. So they're really just looking, they're presenting some stuff and they're really just looking for some feedback tonight. So they're not actually going to be approved.
Great, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Fisher, Marathon Engineering. With me tonight is Victoria Newman from INHS. We do also have, I believe, online someone, I think Bear Smith is online from our team. Yeah. We're here to discuss some what we think are minor changes to the site plan that was originally approved by this board back in August of, I think it was 2024. Primarily out of a necessity to lower construction costs. If you folks recall, the project was essentially approved as one overall project, speaking to the multifamily component. And it's okay, sorry. The multifamily component, which included two walk-up buildings and a taller. Is that the lighting? Here we go. There, thank you. All right, let me get back to this one. Two walk-up multifamily buildings, a taller 3-story multifamily building, and then 6 single-family units along Dryden Road. And this was all under the guise of one project. And I'll let Victoria go into more detail here in a minute, but essentially, the multifamily project and the single-family project have 2 separate funding sources, which required us to separate the project out into 2 separate projects, the multifamily and the single-family. So now, as a quick overview as to why you're seeing 2 sets of plans, 2 sets of drawings versus the one collective set that we had you folks approved back in August in 2024. What we're asking for approval on are some modifications primarily associated with the single family home portion of the project. On the left is the layout that was approved by the planning board back in August. As you can see, it had a long access aisle coming off the north end of that development off of Dryden Road with separate parking spaces associated with each of the units. That was obviously a costly endeavor in trying to reduce costs for the single family home project. We were looking at options to reduce the scope of the work, the construction costs, and primarily the easy one was to try to reduce the amount of pavement that was associated with the development. So we rewrote the subdivision, as you can see here on the panel on the right, to have a central drive aisle out of Dryden Road with parking along that center drive aisle. And we're still maintaining the sidewalk along Dryden so that folks that park here can still have access to their front door from the shared parking area. The overall subdivision has changed slightly, and many of you were here as part of the original project that was approved back in 2024. And the emphasis on the multifamily component was to maintain a certain lot density per the dwelling unit count. And the reason why we've had to rework the single family home lot is to maintain that acreage for the multifamily development portion so that we can maintain the unit density. And just by the sheer layout of the single family home, there was some give and take. It got longer in the north-south direction to try to accommodate the central parking aisle, as well as maintain minimum lot widths for the single family lots. But that meant it expanded in the north-south direction. So that meant we had to pitch it in on the west side to again maintain that acreage for the multifamily development. So that's why not only is the site plan changing, but the subdivision layout is having some minor tweaks as well. Here in this panel on the right, you can see, well, you folks probably can't really see it very well, just the lighting. The originally approved subdivision is that blue line that's blue on my screen. I hard to see on your screen here in the meeting chamber. But it's only going out, you know, in the worst case, 12 feet in this one corner. But the most of the changes are very, very minor. We're talking less than 5 feet around the perimeter of the single family home lot. So again, very minor changes in the subdivision. But what this does allow us to do is reduce costs for the single family home lot, primarily associated with all of the parking and asphalt and some of the sidewalk along the rear of the units. A trickle down effect that also helped the multifamily project was we were able to, remove some of the grading that transitions from the single family home development down to the multifamily. In that, here in the approved plan, you can see we had a pretty substantial retaining wall to maintain the grades and the separation between the two projects. Here in the revised plan, we're able to get rid of that retaining wall by way of just doing earth grading and so on. And then also by way of reducing the amount of impervious cover from the single family home project, we're able to reduce the amount of bioretention or stormwater management for the single family home lot as well. So the two trickle down changes that are affecting the multifamily are that we're able to reduce and remove this retaining wall that separates the two projects and reduce the footprint of the bioretention area 2 here that's on our plan, thereby slightly reducing the cost of that project as well. So we're here to just, get some initial feedback from this board on the changes to both projects, because Victoria will go in here in more detail here in a minute. But there's a timing schedule here as far as when they can get sign off from this board on the changes primarily for the multifamily project, because that project's going to start construction here this spring. And then ultimately the single family home project is going to start work hopefully this fall. So that's kind of the whole impetus behind us being here tonight.
We might have to make the comments on this before we see the next part. I'm not the part. The one thing I noticed has changed quite a bit is now you have a lot more visibility of cars back there. Before it was kind of kept this nice row of housing along the road, where like you drive through there, you're going to see houses, but everything in back. So I'm just noticing that that's going to be much more visible as you drive down that section of road. The other thing is if you check your turnaround with fire trucks in that area, because I think we talked about that a lot last time, where it was laid out before. Not that it doesn't look like you can, but I think that's something we'd have to verify. If you have it already.
Yeah, so the fire department is weighing in on this. Before the original layout, if a fire truck was to get back in here, they would have to back out.
Yeah.
We did, I do recall what you're talking about. It was primarily for an ambulance or emergency vehicle. And so this area here was striped area, and the original plan had the provision for an ambulance to get in there and come around. So we're maintaining that here with the striped area with the new layout. In talking with the fire department, they had some questions on access to fire hydrants. And in the original approved plan, there was a hydrant up here by where the driveway comes in. That's still being maintained in the new layout. That's actually a hydrant that's being installed by the town of Dryden as part of their water and sewer infrastructure project. So the hydrant is still being maintained in the same location. And actually the hose pull lengths under the new scenario, I think, are a bit improved in the original approved layout.
So that's being moved out to the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in essence, a fire truck would pull in off a Dryden stage here on the shared access drive, pull a hose from the hydrant to the truck, and then dispatch the fire from the truck from that point. But we are, not to dismiss your point there, but we are in conversation with the fire department. But that's the narrative that I have expressed to them here so far. With regards to the parking being more visible, I don't necessarily disagree, but there was a project prior to the INHS project that had was part of a Mayfly development that had more parking situated close to the road as well. It was somewhat hidden by some cottages But this is also very in line with that originally approved plan as well. This was two project iterations ago. We do have some means of screening with, the shared mailbox that's out here in front. That'll be able to provide some screening, but, I guess oftentimes what's concerning for board reviewers is headlight glare out into the public right away. The parking is going to be such that the headlights don't shine facing Dragon Road and pull in. It's going to shine off to the north. So that's going to be, not an issue, but, they are closer to the road and they're going to disagree with you there. But I think the visibility, may not be as big an issue because we have the mailbox there. We could put some plantings next to it to kind of break that up a little bit, but.
Well, just a fair notice.
Yeah.
Everything, it does look like you were able to increase the amount of green space compared to previous material.
Yeah, and that allowed us to reduce the amount of stormwater that we had to provide as well. Yeah.
Right, there's not much paving. Yeah. Was this originally approved as two different site plans?
It was one project, one site plan, one seeker. So we're still looking at it as an approval from this board, one approval, one seeker. It's just that the funding mechanisms had to have them be separated out separate. Yeah.
And I was having a hard time seeing just because of size. I think there's sidewalks along the front and the back, or just on the front.
So
I guess my question is, how are people getting from the parking lot to the outer?
Yeah. So the parking for the single family homes is right here on the shared drive. So they would have to pull in, park, and walk down the drive aisle and get to this sidewalk that's along Dragon Road and then walk to the rest.
So what looked like to me. I just want to make sure.
You're reading it exactly right. Yeah. There is some sidewalk along the rear of the single family property outside of the single family home property. That's in the new layout, and that is primarily because the multifamily component of the project needs to maintain access to the bus stop at the corner. So we're having sidewalk extend up through the multifamily, and it runs adjacent to and parallel to the southwest corner of the single family and out to the bus stop.
Are these lots going to be fenced in? Or they just
right now we don't have fences, but we have fences.
It's kind of nice.
I'm sorry, one other thing is I think last time we reviewed this project, we had discussed the possibility of creating a slight turnoff for the buses stopping there. There's just so much traffic coming through to Ithaca. I don't think we actually required that. Have you thought about that anymore?
No, I do recall that comment. We took that back to TCAT and they didn't think they needed one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just know traffic backs up that whole, several bus stops in that section.
Yeah, it is, I know that DOT now has it's a flashing light, I believe, at the intersection. So that's helpful. But, we ran that by TCAT when we were here originally and they said they didn't want one. Any other questions on the single family? I want to bring up one other item that came up after we had originally submitted to you folks, unfortunately, on the single family is, and I'll let Victoria kind of go into more detail, but very broad strokes. The HCR, which is one of the entities that we're seeking funding for on this project, the single family home project, they would change their accessibility guidelines, requirements actually, for a project of this type. So they're actually requiring one of these single family units to be accessible, which means we'll have to have an accessible parking space and access islands and more sidewalks. So the reason why we're asking you folks to not make a decision yet tonight is because we don't have that fully vetted yet. We just got that directive like a week ago.
Yeah, but
So that might require some further massaging of the subdivision and the lot layout. So we want to, before it's coming with you folks, if we might see some minor changes yet again when we come back in March.
there will also need to be a one-story home because all of the bedrooms need to be accessible for the new guidelines. So all of those houses proposed are 2 stories. So this would be a bit of a change. So we're looking at what the footprint could look like so that it can fit in well.
So I'm gonna talk one more time, because I think one of the things we discussed at length last time was that the height of those buildings were actually gonna line up so that they kind of hit the larger developed out back. So as we lower those, is that gonna be addressed with what we're doing behind?
We'll look at it. It's only one of the units that we're talking about, not all six. So just to clarify that, but, comment heard, we'll look at that.
Yeah, I'm not, none of these, we just, I just.
Yeah, no, I that's all that conversation. Yeah.
With those pull-in parking places, they're gonna shine right on that one.
Fair, yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if you're gonna do anything to mitigate that, or if maybe that side of the wall doesn't have any windows in it, but I kind of doubt that.
Yeah,
Just something I noticed sitting here is that one building. Is gonna. Maybe.
I also noticed that you're down to 10 parking places when there used to be 12, 2 per house. Single family house there.
that's correct. I believe the requirement is one per dwelling unit, so we were providing two. We are down to 10, which is in excess of the minimum required. That is a good point to bring up, but we are, admittedly above and beyond the minimum. But yeah, we are cutting out two more.
Okay, thank you.
Would there be enough overflow in the multifamily lot if there was a bunch of?
Well, it's my understanding that the two entities are completely separate, so one doesn't use facilities of the other, so.
Yeah, but I mean, if there was parking available, I assume most people are going to park there if there's slots there.
Yeah, and then Brian covered most of the points that were discussed last time in depth. Was the screening, was, I remember the site, there's some significant slope down, so the 2 stories across the screen. Yeah, there's good discussion that Brian talked about what they're kind of maintaining the neighborhood structure and you said there's only one that's going to be 1 story, so maybe some screening or something might be able to cover concept like that.
Sure.
Or could that be the ones furthest up the road, so, the taller ones are. Usually just.
Yeah, that gets tricky with ADA accessibility, because now you're putting that unit furthest away from the parking. But we'll look into that.
From a positive point, though, I think the yards are much nicer. I think it makes for a nicer backyard for these folks. And the thing we talked about this too is they're all going to be maintained by another entity, right? So it'd be a single. Like we're not going to have a bunch of garden sheds and stuff going back there that are shown on this plan. At this point, it would be a. And we also talked about that too. I remember. But
so the single family did not ever have a centralized dumpster enclosure, so there would be trash totes and recycling totes out by the road, as you would with the typical single family home.
Okay.
Yeah. We do have the joint and shared mailbox. But the plan was for the trash and refuse management to be all by the landowner, the homeowner.
Now, if I remember that the residential structure is the front of it, still kind of in the same place as the original plan. Because I think that's where Frank was coming from, was facing the road was, I think, the backyard in the last plan.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. The parking was going to be going up to the backyard of the original development. So now the front, if you will, the units always had a front street facing porch. And we're maintaining that look and feel. The setbacks are comparable to what was originally approved. Aside from the ADA accessible unit that will have to be revised, I believe all the units are largely in line with what was originally approved. It is very helpful to have folks on the board that have the history. This is a good conversation to have. Anything else on the single family one? On the multi.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking maybe if you could just think about it, and I don't think it's a requirement, but it does clutter up that whole road to have 2 sets of trash cans for every house, and then the They're gonna collect the recycling, they're stopping 6 times, right? Whereas, is there a way to create a protected area of the parking lot that people could have storage for their trash receptacles? Maybe maybe it's not possible, but that way they can pull in the parking lot, empty their recycling, and then get back onto the road without blocking traffic.
Going to multifamily, the only thing that would change as part of the single family home lot again was the retaining wall and some of the grading. It does drop down at a 2-on-1 slope here between the two projects. We have along the sidewalk that runs up, as I mentioned before, coming from the multifamily up alongside the single family out to the bus stop. We do have a chain link fence at the point where the sidewalk meets the downturn of the slope. So folks can't ride their bikes off the sidewalk and tumble down the slope. So we had a fence on top of the retaining wall. We recognize the need to have that protection there as part of the sidewalk buffer to the slope. So that is still a design component of that. And then lastly, again, the bioretention area has been reduced because of the reduction in the impervious cover. There are any questions on those changes as they pertain to the multifamily?
No, none of this changes fire access or any of that stuff, right? So,
No. You want to do the value engineering?
Yeah, sure.
yeah, I think the placement of the buildings, none of that's changed from
On the multifamily? No, we've been working closely since we obtained approval from you folks in August of 24. With Dave Sproul and PG Miller, your engineer, on addressing their engineering comments. I know there was some coordination between these two projects and the town's water, sewer, and storm sewer project along Dryden Road and Freeze Road. So there's been a constant dialogue between our two teams on that front. So the placement of the footprint of the buildings really hasn't changed since originally approved.
Yeah, so when this comes back, it's gonna be a site plan, it's gonna be approving the updated. Assuming that we do, of the updated site plan, but also there's a new subdivision, correct? Yeah. That's not an update, that's actually the redo. Do we have to redo secret too?
I would say no, because I, in my opinion, and again, you folks are able to make your own decision and coordinate with Ray accordingly, but Ray and Gina. But I would argue that we're maintaining the same project footprint. We're not increasing, we're actually decreasing impervious cover. So
yeah, I don't think we need to traffic secret. I'll say that with Ray, but I don't. This is a question.
Yeah.
I don't think we need.
I don't think it should warrant that.
Yeah.
While we have you folks, can we ask you some questions about some value engineering items pertaining to the multifamily, the bigger building? It's not something that we presented and we have submitted for yet, but we want to have a further discussion in March, and we plan on submitting detailed information for that meeting. But can we kind of pick your brains? Bear, you want to share your screen over there? This is Bear Smith with Holt Architecture. He's the architect.
Yep. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will share my screen. Oh, gotta send a request. Okay. And sharing. Alrighty. Is everyone seeing my screen okay?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So as Adam kind of mentioned, there's a couple of value engineering exercises that are occurring for both the single and the multifamily, partly due to construction cost increases and some of the funding source items. So we have tried to be very strategic and thoughtful of trying to find where we can value engineer throughout the entire project and not just solely focus on the exterior. And so I wanted to be very thoughtful of the things that we are going to suggest tonight. We want to hear feedback on it, but also we're trying to do this in the most thoughtful and friendly way we can to be a good neighbor to the community. So there's 3 primary items that we would like to discuss in terms of the exterior. So around the majority of the building, we had previously had this conversation around a stone base. It's a manufactured cultured stone that's running along the front. When we got through our construction costs, and that stone base runs along the back of the building and is a full story height. And our understanding was based off of the previous planning board meetings, there was a concern about it being 4 stories tall and looking very, very high. So to help break up that mass, we were treating that bottom embedded floor / basement as a stone base to try to break up that height. When we got the construction costs back, the cultured stone is about 3 times the cost of any of the other siding materials on the building. And if we were able to reduce it strategically, that would significantly help us a long way towards being able to achieve the budget that we need to get the project into. And so as a part of that, what we would like to suggest is in lieu of the cultured stone along the back, we find that it's important to maintain this visual separation of the 3 upper stories being different from the lower story. We would like to explore taking a similar material to the upper stories, which is a board and batten aesthetic, and having it be similar below, but also have it be like a different color, maybe a darker gray to kind of go and be in a similar vein as like what the stone was along the back, as this is facing the creek side. Along the front and the sides, we would look to maintain the cultured stone in its current orientation because we recognize the visual impact and importance it has from an entry element. So we would be looking to maintain that there. That's the first main item that we're looking at. The second one is we have a couple areas, especially in particular along the community room here, and also each of the stair towers flanking the sides of the building here. Those are aluminum storefront systems, and we saw that as another opportunity to have a significant cost reduction if we went with a vinyl system that was similar to the windows. The overall goal is to try to keep the overall size of each of the glazing systems exactly the same, but just substituting it for a vinyl system. So essentially, each one of these, we'll call them mullions, would get fatter. There may need to be additional structure in there to be able to support larger window systems. But the goal would be to try to keep the essence and the aesthetic as similar as we can in size and try to minimize reductions of the glazing as much as possible. So then that way we can save some money, but still be able to preserve the natural light that's being provided. And then the last item that we're hoping to explore is, given the quantity of the board and batten siding, currently we are looking at opportunities to find another version of it. Currently, we have the fiber cement board and batten is what we had priced up in the construction process. And we're currently exploring either doing an engineered wood version or even looking at a vinyl product possibly there. It would still have the board and batten aesthetic to really try to match what we had previously presented and preserve that overall aesthetic, but trying to just find a cost alternative to be able to help bring the project back into budget. And like I said, it's not just the exterior. We've looked at opportunities on the interior of the buildings as well, in very strategic ways. For example, our electrical, we found about 200,000 in savings there. So there's a number of options that we're really exploring to try to bring this back in so we can provide this anchor to the community in a thoughtful manner, and make sure that it can happen. Victoria, is there anything that I'm missing that we had covered?
No, you've covered everything.
Okay.
When you talk about the windows, the glazing, the vinyl in place of the aluminum, or the common room on the basement then, or on the lower level? For that, I mean, I think that makes sense. For the stairwells, how does that impact, those look like floor to ceiling kind of windows, how does that impact the safety? Stairwell?
Yeah, great question. So the stairwells are in a CMU enclosure. So structurally speaking, there's not much load that's on that portion of the exterior wall. So it's just carrying its own weight there. So those glazing, those windows, they can still stretch that height. We just got to make sure we get adequate support underneath to hold it in place. And then in terms of any glazing that's closer to that floor level, that would have to be a safety glass, so it would have to be tempered and heat treated to be able to be code compliant. But there are vinyl options for that, or vinyl windows have that tempered glass as part of that.
Can I ask a question? So I wouldn't be looking for an answer now, but when you guys come back with the proposals on these material changes, I think it would be very helpful to include the lifespan of said products. So if you're saving money on the front end, but it's only going to last, engineered wood might only last half as long. I don't know, there's something else, or vice versa. Maybe it actually will last longer, but I think that would be very helpful information to know, because that's cost down the line. It's not upfront cost.
Yeah, we can provide that information.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I had a similar comment about the back, because last time we discussed quite a bit about the floodplain from the river that's fairly close to that level. And so if you get away from masonry material and go to a wood material, is there a chance of that getting, haven't floodplains changed since we talked about it?
They have, the new ones have been adopted, but the building is still above.
So we're not in a floodplain?
No,
Okay.
the building is not. The lot itself is slightly encumbered on that west side, but the building is high and dry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Well,
Additionally, I will add that those portions of the wall, I'll double check, but I'm pretty certain we have CMU behind it already as a backup material. So that would also help resist any potential flood event.
And I'm not sure we have a whole lot to say about exactly what material they were.
anything to say about it?
But so we don't. We do have something to say about appearance, and I think the longevity question is a good one. Is, if you're using materials that have a lifespan that is, half or a third of what it was, how does that impact the look of the building and whatnot? So that's from a site plan review perspective. We can't really dictate, like, you have to use this particular.
No, that's understood. It was more about, there's a lot of discussion on the massing and breaking up the facade and that kind
I
of thing.
like the idea of keeping the break. I think you do need that sort of break on the back side, so that doesn't look so high. Okay. Like I said, my concern would be about fire safety and appearance.
Great. So, nothing's changed on the height of the building.
No,
because that was a big discussion point.
Placement of the heat pump. That's none of that. So
Those are all, it's all staying in. So if we were just bring these changes forth while we have you folks and get some feedback, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anything was missed? Okay, anything else? Okay. We're all set, but thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Okay, 300 Lower Creek Road. Nina, do you want to do an introduction on this? Nina's you're muted.
Okay, so we have a request from our builder who was previously before the board for approval of 3 duplexes on this parcel. Can everybody see the parcel okay on the screen? Can you see it? Okay, so the previous approval was for the 3 duplexes and a garage. And now our applicant has come back asking to convert the garage into a dwelling with the same footprint. And in order to do this, he had to show that it is subdividable according to town code.
Gina, I don't see, we've talked about a lot about the septic field needing requiring 1 per lot. I don't see a septic in the garage.
So, well, let's let them, talk about. All right, welcome back.
Hi. Okay, so I like to convert the garage and it's 2 septic systems for existing right now. And the garage is connected to one of them because one of them is for 9 bedroom, what 8 bedroom is in the 2 duplexes and 1 spare 9 is directly to garage.
So currently there are 2 separate systems
Yes.
serving 3 duplexes.
Yes, correct. And the garage is 1 8x36, 2x6 frame wall, engineered trusses, 9-foot ceiling, connected with electric, with nice service, connected with water, connected with sewer.
Questions?
So these septic systems that were significantly limited. One septic.
Yes, the septic system, what we built is with the sand filter, with the leach field is designed for 9 bedroom. What serve 8 bedroom in the 2 duplexes and 1 is direct to the future apartment or garage. I did this for purpose. My whole idea was build a garage for storage maintenance for this complex, but this is already 2 years, and I really using small room for the pressure tank, what is 5x12, and rest of it is empty. And during all this process, I said it will be good to have a restroom on site. That's why I did this. That's not much cost, much more cost, with a little bit bigger septic system, but give the option. Yes.
So how many wells are on?
1 well.
Well,
Yes, 1 well with chlorine system approved from the health department.
and this will be the garage would end up being a 1-bedroom apartment.
1 bedroom apartment. That will be someplace 800 square feet, but has to be 1 bedroom because it's rated from the septic.
Does this change any of the parking? So
No, the parking to each duplex, I have a designated parking in front of each, and on left side to garage, I have a parking space in front of this garage. So it's easy 2 spots, I would say even 3.
any other thoughts? Any additional lighting?
No,
Garbage is still in the same spot.
all same spot, yes. Garbage collection is on this curve, so we have a garbage and recycling in one place.
And Gina, even with this layout, it is subdividable, right?
Yes, because you can have flag lots. So potentially we have on the lower right here is the primary lot, and then the other 3 would be flag lots. with access, road frontage access of over 25 feet. And they're all 1 acre, 1 acre parcels because it's a little over 4 acres altogether.
Okay.
So I apologize for jumping in before, but my comment is still that originally we had asked that you show the ability to have a septic per lot if it were to be broken up and sold out in the future. Right? And I don't think that's what, I don't see that on here. You showed a plan last time where you said there could be a septic field down off of lot 3. And then I'm just questioning whether or not lot 1 and 2 could be subdivided and get 2 septic fields in there in the future if it was sold separate. Unless it was like, you can't share a septic field of 2 properties if they sold to different owners, I know. Or I could be wrong.
Gina.
I remember
This is
correctly.
a health department issue that I really am not qualified to speak.
But yeah, actually, I understand that. Yes, yes. Now, always we can base on a pump system septic. So because all this property is sloping down to the road, and we use the gravity system, but
Yeah.
if we will go other way, we have so much room behind the duplexes. If we will use the pump system septic, will be absolutely doable.
Okay. I mean, my concern is just now that once you subdivide this, they are separate pieces of property to be sold separately. Not that that's your intent right now. Yeah, I know it's the works.
Yeah.
But things change in the future, and so we just wanted to see the ability to do that, and then, you know,
I love
we can design it now.
Absolutely. I love to go with gravity. That's why all the slope towards the road, and we're using that direction. But if we will go other way, if we will go up with the pump, we have so much room behind each building, and that will be able to serve the room for the septic system.
Any other comments? Okay, I put forth a resolution that we approve the sketch plan review and waive further site plan review with standard conditions. Because we haven't specified anything else, right? Yeah. Okay.
A second motion.
Okay. Any other conversation? Okay, all in favor? Okay. All right. Pat?
Sorry. I'm good.
Good, okay. It's unanimous. Okay. Okay, all set.
Great, thank you.
All right. Okay. Next agenda item, we have several things that we have received from other boards. That I just wanted to acknowledge. And actually I have a couple of things that we have to do otherwise to elements. And Gina and Joy, my computer's been getting trouble, Zoom keeps locking up, that's why I dropped off. So I'm not on the Zoom from here. All right. So the first one was, it was sent to everybody, was a resolution from the Affordable Housing Committee encouraging the use of cluster conservation subdivision on the 172 Edville Road property. Again, we do not have an application in front of us. So I'll just acknowledge that we received it, we read it, we'll take it into consideration if and when we get an application. The other one, there's another one that was a resolution from the Conservation Board asking that we create a subcommittee to review the 172, 179 Edville Road project. Again, I think that's premature. But given the ZAG work that's currently being undertaken and everything else, I'm not sure it is a good use of resources to create another subcommittee. I'm asking the planning department to forward to all of the boards any application that comes in on the 172 property, so everybody will get it as soon as it comes in, if it comes in, when it comes in, and given the process, all of the boards and individuals will have, I believe, ample opportunities to weigh in on the project, and before the preliminary review. And then after the preliminary review, there are 2 more public hearings, which are required. So I think there's going to be ample opportunity. And actually, the other thing I don't like about subcommittees is that, you know, you have a small group of people working on something and you bring it back to the main group, and then the main group has lots of questions. And I just think having everybody weigh in to everybody is I think going to be a more efficient. So, does anybody have any concerns or issues? And then we have Evan Carpenter, who wanted to talk to us about a resolution that the Ag Committee. Yep.
Did you receive copies of the resolution? Okay. Would you like me to read the resolution?
Everybody read it, right? I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Tony, I can project it if that's helpful.
Sure. A summary of it is that you're proposing a 18-month moratorium.
Correct. This is a resolution that the Ag Advisory Committee presented to the town board last week. And basically we're asking for a moratorium on major subdivisions, not those that are currently in the process of being done, but new applications coming in. Since we are currently working with ZAG and the zoning planning board, everybody here, trying to come up with a way of protecting farmland, which is in the comp plan. And we just feel as though as complicated as it is, because we don't want to be stepping on the toes of landowners and saying that, no, you cannot sell your land for what you thought you could, or what you think you can. And even though it is your asset, we're telling you, no, you can't do with it as you want to. I mean, if, you know, Nick's brothers want to sell off their dozers or whatever, they can sell off their dozers. If a farmer wants to sell off some pasture land because he doesn't have cattle anymore, all of a sudden it's like, no, you can't. So we've got to come up with a balance. And that's what we're hoping to, you know, the moratorium of 18 months will give us a chance to come up with a way of a good balance. We've presented this resolution, like I said, to the town board last week, the conservation board, Tuesday night. They accepted it with including a clause to also protect lands of conservation importance.
When you say they accepted it, does that mean they put
They passed a resolution that they accept our resolution with one that will caveat. Is that the way it was worded? Yeah. Looking for. Us. Yep.
So the town board, They accepted that they have the resolution, but they haven't given anything with it.
It's, hopefully it's doing more than just sitting on somewhere collecting dust. They're thinking about it, looking at it. And you may not have seen this, but just today, the County Ag and Farmland Protection Board has also seen our resolution, and they have accepted it and are passing it on to the town board with their blessings.
When you say they've accepted it, have they?
We didn't present it to them. They saw it and they liked it and they support it. They're supporting the resolution and have passed word on to the town board.
So, all right, so what are you asking here?
It'd be nice if the planning board also wanted to support it or think about it. Think about it. What don't you think? I'm not listening to anybody's arms tonight or anything like that. I just,
I have a whole bunch of questions.
Sure, ask me that. That's what I'm here for.
So the struggle I have with this is, when we did, the town put in place, and the latest example I have is the data center moratorium. In that case, the data centers were a new use and our zoning didn't deal with it.
Correct.
Right.
Understood.
In this case, we're not talking about any new use. We already have a conservation subdivision law. We already have zoning code. We already have farm protections. We already have ag protections in our current codes. So to me, a moratorium is awful heavy-handed to stop major subdivisions across the whole town. Just to stop.
No, this isn't just to stop. This is in general. And if it takes an or if there's a if there's an application for there, it's already in the works, it's not going to be stopping it. We're just and it's not on all lanes. What we were looking for, we're stopping it on prime soils and soils of state importance.
But
to try to,
there's also a lot of those soils that are currently not being farmed. They're currently forest.
Correct. So that's where we get into the areas of trying to help the town direct housing into the rural areas like the town wants to, not creating a new node or someplace else where there is not municipal infrastructure support.
So I guess my question is
such as the corner of Mount Road and North Road.
Right.
That's nice soil over there.
Right.
But it's rural
in the village and not
it's also in the village, correct. But there are other parcels that are similar to that, that are next to, that would
and this moratorium would stop it.
Temporarily, yes. While we try to figure out how do you protect the farmers' rights and do the housing expansion, which,
so we already have a conservation subdivision law.
Okay.
We already have code for that. And in fact, the ZAG group is going to be working on the conservation subdivision law in the next meeting or two.
Right.
And so, again, like an 18-month moratorium just seems really heavy-handed. And why just prime soils and why just ag land? I mean, it should be conservation land. What about other major uses of land? What about a solar farm? What about some other major use that might take up ag land other than a major subdivision? Why aren't we stopping that? And for things that don't align with the town comprehensive plan, because part of what the ZAG board, the main thing that the ZAG group is doing is trying to bring our zoning codes into line with our comprehensive plan, right? Correct. There's a lot of areas other than just ag lands that there's this misalignment. And are we going to stop doing everything just because while we work through the comprehensive plan? I don't know what we can do. So I guess this just seems pretty narrow and everything. That's just my opinion. I don't want to take over for everybody. It's just my opinion.
To Tony's point, we do have the conservation subdivision already on the books. The ZAG group
is gonna be looking at the appropriate, I guess, acreage, is a good way to.
Right.
It's some of the problems with the way it's currently written. It seems to be toward big allocations of land, and where kind of the zoning, where the comprehensive plan was going was conservation subdivision across more areas, not just in particular zoning areas, like across all of them, where that could be a viable option potentially. And then subdividing small pieces of that for the inclusion of extra housing, and then conservation subdivision protecting the other lands such as agricultural. I kind of have to agree with Tony with, I get the intent of this, but it seems like it's trying to stop a project that isn't even officially on the books yet.
Yeah, well, like I said, this is not just to stop, this is a challenge that Ag Advisory Committee was toiled with for years. I mean, since our inception. Is how do you not step on a farmer's toes to do with his property as he sees fit, and yet try to direct,
So,
and
I'm not trying to pick on.
yeah, how it's been done in other towns, in other states.
So what was, so one of the more recent, one was the Morris Road solar. There were prime soils involved in that. And well, they would, yes, and moving the soil. I would argue it doesn't. Don't get me wrong. I think solar farms, I view solar farms as an acceptable ag use.
Thank you.
But what I'm saying is that if there are,
I raised 650 turkeys under the solar panels on my place. I've got 200 sheep under solar panels on my place currently.
I'm not trying to.
No, but I see a picture because it's coming out of ag.
And I just, my worry is, my concern is that we're blocking major subdivisions through the town for 18 months. And I just don't know that.
Well, we treat
and again, this is really what the town would win, whether or not. But I just am concerned that in one respect, the moratorium is almost too narrow because it's looking just at specific things, ag and whatnot, and there are other places that we don't necessarily align with the comprehensive plan. And are we going to start putting other moratoriums in place because we don't align with the comprehensive plan? And I'm just not sure. Like I said, I get it with the data centers, I get it with fracking, I get it with these other things which are uses which are not currently covered under our zone. But there's nothing that we're talking about here. When we're talking about a major subdivision, we're not talking about a use or anything that is not already covered under our.
Well, I guess the group would, our committee would like to see as we're working with ZAG, to tweak the current laws.
Yeah.
And let's before we allow anything to be done, let's get them tweaked right. There was I'm with the zoning law said that the house lot had to be what, 5, 8 acres.
There's a time when the town had 5 acres.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And that just chopped farms up in a hurry.
Yeah, and that's why, and so like a lot of the discussions there are talking more about, less about lot size and more about density.
Correct.
And there's a lot of discussions in this, and the conservation subdivision discussion that we're going to have is, I think, is going to really weigh in on a lot of this. And because there's multiple ways that the municipalities can try to protect ag lands. I mean, like I said, there's several things already on the book. There's the right. Somebody already mentioned it earlier tonight. The right to farm law, and other.
which unfortunately most people don't know about until after they smell the manure. You know, they sign 50 different documents at the closing, and one of them is, yeah, I understand that's going to be happening next year.
Or hear the trucks going up and down the road.
Yeah.
I live on Sims Hill Road, and so during harvest season, the trucks going up and down Sims Hill Road are, but it's, I love where we are, right? Completely surrounded by dairy. But, I don't know, I mean, I think it's, you know, certainly, I understand what you're trying to do. I think this is something that the town board certainly should, you know, take up and think about. It'd certainly make our job easier if they put a moratorium on subdivisions, because we don't have to look at it. You know? But you know, that.
Yeah, so I mean, the ZEG group was looking at a lot of outdated zoning things. But to be fair, like it's gonna be across multiple phases, and like, we can't just put a moratorium on everything in zoning just until it's rewritten. So, I mean, I see your point totally, but it's already on the books, it's not outside the books. Conservation subdivision can potentially limit what can happen on any lot, any major subdivision lots, but where it can be under the purview of, well, planning board seems that, oh, well, we only want a few acres in this general area of that land developed. And that's kind of the premise of the conservation subdivision.
I mean, who knows? They could come back, even on some that we have before us. We don't have any before us right now, but if we did, the one that we saw a preview of, they could come back with a plan that protects the ag lands and protects the UNAs and does all that. You know, that's what we don't know. We gotta see. But and we don't have anything, so I don't know. But in general, I don't know. I guess it's my feeling is I think a moratorium is heavy-handed. But you know, if others on the board have different opinions or want to put forth a resolution in support of this, fine to do that. But
with a shorter period of time.
I'm not sure, because again, thinking about how fast things are going on with ZAC group. I don't know. You know, that's one of the things I've been trying to do is try to help speed that up a little bit, but because, you know, I mean, remember, we are doing it in phases. I think we've got at least 2 years of zoning work left to do, not for this phase one, which includes conservation subdivision. But you know, I think we still have 2 years, probably close to 2 years worth of.
If they come and present something that is similar to what in which wasn't presented, how would you address looking at what they came up with and saying it needs to be a conservation subdivision if you so decide? How does that work? You know, if he comes up with something where the surveyor has surveyed out the lots for 20 lots and presents it to you and says, this is what we would like to do with it. Can you at that time turn and say, oh, this really needs to be conservation subdivision?
We've already encouraged it.
You encourage it, but can you require it? I don't know how it works when someone comes like this.
I think we can tie this up with it. I don't know if it is.
Definitely wrong.
I mean, you say you have the tool, and yet I'm not hearing that you really.
We do. We have a subdivision code. We have to operate within the subdivision code.
And does that clarify the district to the conservation subdivision?
I'm not sure.
So you don't actually have a tool.
We do. There are legal limits to what we can tell people they can do with their life.
That's my
Right.
question.
And so. But I think in this particular case, that's what this same company did in Mill Creek was conservation subdivision.
What they did was considered.
It was a conservation subdivision. It was. Well, and it's not, remember, conservation subdivisions are not just about lot size. They're about protecting and it controls density, and they put building envelopes, like you can only, like you have this lot, but you can only disturb, it's in the deed, you can only disturb this much of the.
You know, I was here when they
So
created those and put them into the zoning. And they were saying that it was at the time, it said that it would happen because they were often with the developer that they could add an additional house in the compacted area as long as they left more out, which is what also happened in the top.
A good example of conservation subdivision that comes to mind is what they did with the golf course. That's a good example of a.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the one where the house was built, it wasn't supposed to be. Yeah. I mean, that's the idea.
Yeah.
They were down there.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and in that case, the house was built, what was it, 10 feet off of where it was supposed to be, something like that.
That comes down to an enforcement issue and not a board.
That's more of an enforcement issue than a planning issue.
A case where the developer came from and before they did the pay for the surveyor work, they already had an idea that this was what they would do. But this,
I don't know.
for coming and spoken to Gina, I understand. And she's spoke to some people before and seemed to be competitive to just divide it up the way they did it in their simple preliminary sketch.
We don't have to approve.
So I just want to say, Tony's not speaking for the board. He's speaking for himself right now. He's not speaking for me because I feel like moratorium is just that. It's a temporary vehicle. It's not a ban. So something like that, I don't think it should be cut and dried. It's too much. It's temporary. So I think it's something that we should consider and we should talk about more as a board. And then decide whether or not to support it.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not looking for you to, go down it right now. It's gonna toss it out and disappear and you can talk and decide and think and. Frank, you have your hand up earlier. Do you have questions for me?
No, it's actually, I was gonna just speak to the board kind of. I agree with Tony and Chris. I think it is, for me, it seems like pretty big thing to do to just outright put a pause on something that is allowed in our current, code. I do think I would support though, like making it a priority in the next efforts to look at this and try to actually place the fixes in the code, not through us making. We have to follow kind of the law when we make these decisions, right? So the way to fix is to update the laws to give us the tools to do that. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to talk about the next priorities. I think I support this being one of the priorities. It's
going to be on the next agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
So the March 5th meeting, we will be talking about conservation. So.
And then actually, if you came up with an idea,
when this current state things that you're being to talk about it in March, then it's like the part of the next report to the town board, right? Which will include everything after that, too, which includes housing. So the report to the town board, suppose we came up with a wonderful solution for that thing. It actually will be presented to the board until next
Nothing that says,
November.
nothing that says we couldn't present it soon.
Well,
Well, we did the data center one separate from everything else.
And there was a moratorium. Yep, that's true.
Well, and the other one we have to finish is the battery storage. Please. Like I said, I'm not speaking, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go forward with what you're doing, or that the town board should not do it. All I'm saying is, I think that
You personally think it's already covered?
a moratorium is heavy-handed, and given that we already have a code that deals with all of this, I don't think it's appropriate. It's also that code protect farmers. What's that? How does that code protect farmers? There are multiple farm protect. Now, one could argue that they don't work, that they're not good enough, that it's not enough. But there is code in there currently.
I think what we were asking for is the experience has been the code hasn't.
Well, and again, I have to say, you're asking to put a moratorium on major subdivisions. There are other things that impact farmland, which are not being asked for a moratorium for. So I'm sorry.
So you're saying that they're not asking for enough. Thank you.
That's my question. So you're asking, other stuff.
And again, if we put a moratorium on all the things that don't align for the comprehensive plan, we could take a vacation. Because we're not going to do anything.
So why are you?
So, it's well, no, we would be working on nothing but zoning. I guess is what I would say. Because we wouldn't have any projects before.
I mean, and the reality is we don't see many large subdivisions, right?
Right.
I mean, so since I've been on this board, I think there's been one.
Yeah.
So really this moratorium is focused on one project, right? That
It seems
so, I don't think it's appropriate to do a moratorium just based on one thing that people are wanting to not see go through. There's other mechanisms too. Maybe it's something that's a public forum with the town board, but eventually they're the ones that would have to approve it. Our role is to make sure it meets the code. If we focus on looking at the code and there's a way to improve it to make these projects better for the community, I think that's where we can come in and use ZAG tool and while we're doing this and improve it there. But I don't think I'm not necessarily in support of creating a moratorium just because of one thing that we want to stop. So that's why I wouldn't probably.
Yeah, the big difference between this and the data center is the data center wasn't on the use table at all.
Yeah.
The moratorium was a correct method for going about that. It's a working in our zoning, but yeah. Well, this is already in our zoning. And to your point, Bill, this is the time to have the discussion. It'd be good to hear from other board members and what their thoughts are on this. Because we have to do it in a public record. We can't just, we have to have a specific session to talk about it. So.
I guess I have very mixed feelings on this. As the new kid on the block, I have to acknowledge that I don't yet have sufficient knowledge on the tools at our disposal and the options we have to judge whether it's necessary or not. At the same time, as a dairy farmer's daughter, I have a whole lot of sympathy for wanting to preserve farmland. Breaks my heart every time I see a cornfield turned into a subdivision. But I guess so I'm kind of on the fence until I think about it more and learn a little more about what powers we do and don't have.
And actually, the conversation March 5th, we probably hope God a lot. We can, looking. Yeah, everybody gets sent the current subdivision back. So maybe that would give us some more insight as to just exactly what our tools are and what they aren't. Sure. Yeah, because we won't meet again. Like if I don't know, Bill, are you thinking of putting up for the resolution in support of Mark?
No, I was making sure everyone knew there's not one point of view.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So there is not one point of view.
You know, we could make the resolution that at this point we're not offering support or not support.
We're neutral.
Well, you don't make any resolution, and
Right. We don't have to make any resolution.
I go home and I bet. So there are things to be doing tonight.
And again, I likewise wouldn't want to put out a resolution opposed to it, because I'm not saying that I oppose it. I'm just not sure it is the right approach. What I'm saying. Pat, is Pat still on? Do you have anything to say?
She dropped off.
Okay. All right. All right, well, thank you.
Okay.
Like I said, I think you guys are doing the right stuff, you know, trying to protect farmlands and all that stuff. I'm just not sure that moratorium is the right stuff.
Okay. No worries.
All right.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Then the last one, this one was not sent to everybody. And you know what else wasn't sent to everybody that I forgot to mention earlier? Jumping back, we already approved it, the 300 Fuller Creek Road, but we did just today get the 239 review from comments from the county, and they said they had no comments. So I meant to say that first. Is Alice on? Yes, Alice is on. Okay. We have a resolution. A proposed resolution I have in my hand. Pass these out. I have in my hand a resolution. So a little background on this, and Alice, I'm going to lean on you a minute in just a second. We have a resolution from the rail trail. Or I should say, I have a resolution from the rail trail to propose, which Alice nicely wrote for me. Rail trail is applying for a TAP grant to finish parts of the trail near 366. And Alice, can you talk a little more just about like what exactly the grant is for?
Sure, and thank you, Tony, for considering this on short notice. I apologize that I didn't get this request to you sooner. We were waiting for consultants' numbers before we brought this before the town board on last Thursday, and so we just we got feedback. The numbers are realistic from our consultant's point of view, and we would like the planning board to consider passing this resolution that approves of and supports our TAP grant application. What that application would cover, what the application covers, if we got funding, we would be able to finish surfacing and make ADA compliant two sections of the trail between Game Farm Road and all the way to Route 366 on the west end, and between the two villages on the east end. It would extend the trail an extra mile between Hallwoods Road and Route 366. We've completed, by the end of this year, we will have completed phases 1 and 2 of the rail trail project. And this would complete, if we get this grant, it would complete phase 3.
That, and this is in addition, so you applied for, was it 3.8 million?
3.8 million, yes,
this is all in addition to the bridge, right? So
right. The bridge is, as we announced a couple of weeks ago, and folks probably heard, we're set to go with construction of the bridge beginning this spring, with the hope of completing it at the end of 2026 this year. So that will finish phase 2 of the project. And this, it took a while, but this is looking like successful completion of a $1.5 million TAP grant for the bridge and finishing between Monkey Run and Route 13. So this just continues that making ADA compliant work and surfacing, and also extends the trail another mile.
So the resolution, I can read it here. So essentially what this resolution is expressing that the Town of Dryden Planning Board support the Town of Dryden's application to the New York State Department of Transportation for a grant of up to 3.8 million from the Transportation Alternative Program, that program, to complete phase 3 of the Dryden Rail Trail.
Okay. And this was passed, a similar resolution was passed unanimously by the town board last Thursday.
I need to read,
I'd like to read the application.
What's that?
I'd like to look at the application before
You'd like to look at the application?
why not?
It's hard for folks in the Zoom world to hear what's being said there. Was that addressed to me?
Well, Chris was saying that he'd like to see the application, but
So Tony, if you like, I can either project or I can send some copies to the printer, or both.
you could project it.
Of the resolution or the application?
The application.
Alice would have to do that because I don't have the application.
No, the application is still in progress.
We haven't seen the application. Okay.
Well, a small working group, including Ray, has seen the application. It continues to be under review. It's due March 12th.
And it's going to be asking for up to 3.8 million.
Correct. That includes a bridge repair near Springhouse Road and the creation of a new parking area off New York State Route 366 in Etna.
And when do you expect this will be sent to the state?
And this application will go to, it's a federal grant.
Oh, federal.
A federal grant administered by New York State Department of Transportation.
When do you expect it to go to them?
When do we expect to know the results of the?
When would you expect to submit the application?
March 12th.
Thoughts?
Yeah.
I make a resolution that planning board support the application.
This, we pass this?
Yes.
I don't need to read, because Pat dropped off, I don't need to read everything here, right? Everybody has it in front of them, we can read it. So Bill, put forth a motion to pass this resolution. Cheryl seconds. Any other discussion on this? Chris, you have concerns, right?
Well, no, it's just, I mean, it's asking for our support of the application, and it's an application.
Right.
I have no problems with it, but it's just a little weird to me that we're supporting something we hadn't even seen.
The substantial items in the application are in bullet points in your resolution.
Yep. Right, pretty much what the bullet points are in here is what's in
We're
the
supporting the concept of submitting the application,
right,
not the
Right,
details at the end.
So we support submitting an application to do this. How's that?
Good.
Okay. All in favor? That's unanimous for those that are here. Joy has dropped off. So
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that support.
thanks, Alice.
Sure.
You were being on here so that I didn't have to try to. I read it, but I am not up on it as you are.
And I wish I could, I can't wait till the new sound system gets put in so I can understand what you're saying better.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Zoning rewrite. I received, yes, I was going to send it out last Friday when I sent out the agenda for this, but Nan realized that the updated red line that she had sent me had some stuff that still needed to be done. I got that a couple days ago. I'm going to send out a new updated red line. I'm going to send out some documents that we work with, especially since we have some new people on here. I'm going to send out the phase 1 scope documents. I don't remember, you guys remember the one that John did that was about what we're doing in phase 1, and also the piece that went to Nan, which is the description of what we were having to do in phase 1. So I want to send that out to everybody again, just to remind people what is in phase 1. So, hopefully try to keep us. What I was hoping to try to get through the rest of the red line in the next 2 meetings, but in talking to Nan, I think it's going to be at least 3. But the next one is going to have conservation subdivisions, and there's some things in the modified red line that she came back with. There's a couple things in definitions that we have to revisit. I think they're pretty. So I'd like to get that in the next meeting, and then we'll work on the other. There's another one that will probably take a fair amount of discussion. There's a whole new section on manufactured housing, which I think is in there. So there's some, so I think it's going to take at least 3 more meetings for us to get through the red line, but unless anybody has anything else to offer on zoning rewrite. Don't take that. Yes, I can. Yes, I can send it to you. Planning department update. Gina.
Okay, so let's see. We had I don't know if you read about this in the paper, the county legislature, the county planning department, and then the county legislature supported an application for extension of water to the Hanshaw Village mobile home park. So that's going to advance. We don't know that we're going to get it, but we know that that was the one that the county chose and that the legislators voted for. So that's exciting. That's in the works. So we could have not only sewer extension out there, but water as well. The other thing was, and I don't know how informed you are about the Route 13 parcel feasibility study. I think Ray has mentioned that before. Yep. So we do have a county grant to fund a study for the feasibility of building up that area, particularly for housing. I can show you that parcel. Let's see. So it's this parcel out here on Route 13. It's about a little over 100 acres, and it's right by where 13 and 36 diverge, 366 diverge.
It's now all woods. It used to be fields, but now it's woods, right?
Yeah, I think it's mixed. I mean, there's also wetlands in there. There's a good amount of wetlands in there. So we have a contract signed with Fisher Engineering to conduct a feasibility study, which is they're being managed by the Affordable and Workforce Housing Committee. There was sort of their impetus to apply for this grant. And so they're going to be, Fisher's going to keep reporting to them on the feasibility study as they're creating it. They're having their first meeting on March 3rd, this Tuesday, during the Affordable Workforce Housing Committee meeting to meet the contractor and discuss what they're doing. There's going to be a site visit on the 5th. So I think if the planning board wanted to be involved in that, I would contact Ray, but of course, not everybody on the planning board or not even a quorum of people on the planning board could attend. It would just maybe be a representative or something if you wanted to go. There's going to be a charrette week. That's April 6th to the 10th. And the planning board can weigh in on that and participate in that. You can contact me for further information or Ray for further information. So that's about all I have to report on.
Any questions for Gina? Okay. Town board update.
I'll give it a shot, and then he can correct your way in. My notes. Give me a second. Just taking too many notes. Okay, so I had a note here about yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I had a note in here to fill you guys in on the New York State DOT TAP grant application for rail trail, but you're already filled in on that. Y'all know that we passed the zoning update regarding data centers, so you're in the loop on that one. Dryden Fiber is very, very, very busy. You may not see how busy they are, but they're really, really busy doing a lot of work that when the warm weather hits, they will be prepped to start doing a lot of physical activity. So you're going to see a flurry of trucks and activity because they're on the tight clock to meet the grant deadline to ensure that there is high-speed internet for all of Dryden and all of the town of Caroline. So lots and lots of activity there. And I've had some lots of engaged conversations with fire departments and very engaged conversations with fire departments. Aetna has now merged with Neptune. And they have a really fantastic plan in collaboration with the Varna Fire Department as well as Strong to utilize the Aetna Fire Department resources to develop a community training center and really fill the training gap challenges that the town has had. So there's a lot of enthusiasm across all the departments. The Aetna members are now folded into the Neptune membership. So there's some really good things there too, because there are a lot of good things on that front. So there's more to come as the town starts working with the fire departments to start assessing the opportunity to move to a fire district rather than the current structure. But what that looks like and how feasible that is will come. But that's the updates there. No. what was Aetna has now merged with Neptune. They're one. But they're working very collaboratively with Varna and with WB Strong in utilizing the Aetna space and resources to develop a community-wide training that will meet the needs of the whole town.
That also.
Isn't it? So those are my highlights. Anything really fun I missed that you'd want to make sure? Okay, there we go.
Okay. All right. Any questions for the town? Okay. Minutes approval from 122. I sent them out. Did everybody read them? Put a motion out to approve the minute. Any comment? Anybody notice anything? I know, Tom, we can't even vote on this because you weren't there. You don't think about them. You can read them, but you can't vote on whether or not they are right. Because they approved because you weren't there. So for the motion to approve the minutes from 122. Cheryl seconds. Any other discussion on the minutes? All in favor to approve them? Good. Everybody except Tom. Tom's abstaining because he wasn't there. And the last thing I have is the New York State Training Federation Conference in April. We can send 3 people, or town will pay for 3 people to go. My understanding, Cheryl, you're planning on going, and Bill, you're planning on going. I don't know, Tom, if you've had a chance to think about it, or yeah, yes. You are interested in going. Chris, you went last year. Did you go last year? No, I should probably something. Okay. You don't you can for this one. You didn't express interest in doing this. Well, there's already 3 people taking it. Okay. So let Joy know, and she'll follow through on it. It is a good, for one thing, it's really good way to get all of your, we all know, right? We're required to have 4. I sprung this one on Tom last Friday. That we're all supposed to get 4 hours a year, right? The one nice thing about the conference is you get about 8 hours of training out of that, which will kind of cover you for 2 years. So that actually helps pretty well. It is a good conference. I got a lot out of it last year, even though I was really sick.
Yeah, and should remind that there are free trainings. So the conference will go into more depth on the basics, right? But just keep that in mind. Yeah, and there are free training videos.
Right. There's New York State Planning Federation does a thing called Learn at Lunch, which are Zoom webinars. You can go out there an hour, noon to 1. And they're easy to get on to, and they're pretty good topics. Joy usually sends out, like as we get information on those, Joy sends those out. So.
Tony?
Yes.
Hey, can you ask Tom if he's getting my emails?
He said he is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I responded back to you this afternoon after I realized they were going in the junk folder.
Okay. Just as long as you're getting them.
Okay.
Do we know how much it actually costs if I do want to go?
Yes. It's
I don't have that any knowledge since I started this. I probably should have.
I will send you some information. Okay. I'll send you some information. We're going to talk about.
Let's see if
Since he had seniority, you go?
it's okay. I didn't jump on it, so okay.
We'll figure it. I mean, the other thing we could do is maybe so we had a certain amount of money, right? We have a certain amount of training money. If everybody submits their conference registration, their hotel bill, and mileage, food, we may not have enough to do more than 2. But if we said we could split it 4 ways, that's what we did last year, right? But I mean, the fact is that we have a set amount of money from the town board, right? we could possibly do. Right, if you're really interested in going, well, I already kicked off the board. If I don't do it. Everything saying you want to, it's not reply to it. And so yeah, so it would be good. Whatever, you know. Chris, you will ask you. I know you like those. Do we get to say room there, correct? That's the question. You got a suite. How do you do that? All right. Anything else? As far as the rooms go, there is a bedroom. Oh yeah, that's right. The deadline for hotel reservations is coming up, so we have to do that. Correct. And it's in that email. Look at the email. Okay. The instructions are in the email. You should be able to register online. I did. Yeah, I'm planning on going to, but that's not coming out of that.
If somebody is going, I do the registration. You have to book your hotel, but I register people.
Do the registration? Well, I registered myself and paid for it.
Who said that, Tony?
Yes.
If they can send me an email tomorrow so I can find out who needs to be registered.
If you're interested in going, send Joy an email tomorrow.
Yes.
And she will do the registrations. And then we will figure it out. And but you do have to do your own hotel reservation. It is in Cooperstown, nice place. The hotel is very nice. They have it in. If you've been there, but it's very nice. So, anything else you guys want to? Well, it's not. Look, we're before 8 o'clock. You know.
This doesn't happen.
He sat through the longest one I think ever. Yeah. He was in the audience last month. Okay, I think we're good. Well, I think we're adjourned. Hold on.
I mean, maybe we can talk about the set drums. I try to get my head wrapped around the reason behind asking for our support of certification.
The grants. So when people apply for grants, it's the grantee. Excuse me, it's the grantees, grantors. The grantors like to understand that there is support for a project within a community. So in other words, the rail trail applying for this, it's all well and good. But if there isn't support from the community for it, then so what grantors like to see is support from the community for whatever it is that they're applying for the grant for. And so oftentimes when municipalities or organizations apply for grants, they'll often seek letters of support, especially things that are community based, like rail trails, right? They'll often seek letters of support from businesses or from other entities within the municipality, or those kind of things too, so that the grantor knows that there's support for this project.
And we should be getting them prior to the meeting, so some of us can actually review information.
Yep. Yes, and in our order, it would be nice to have it. Yes. I mean, I thought this one was pretty straightforward.
Well, to be fair, a tap room is every year, so those are pretty standard. I'm just saying.
For now, yeah, who knows what's it's better. It's a federal grant program. It's a federal program. There's no guarantee it's gonna be around next year. Anyway, does that answer your question, Tom? It's really just to show that there's support for given. You know, when the village was applying for the New York Forward, they went around to like various nonprofits and other people, other organizations, and like we wrote one from Rotary, various organizations within the community to say, you know, in support of these things. But it's usually just to make sure that there is support for the money being spent. There's good support. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.